the superspeedway.
Welcome to episode 276 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, you're in charge of the notes today, and I had to look down at the date as I was reading it, but you did good. You did good, man.
Yeah, my stomach dropped when you started reading it, because I couldn't remember if I fixed it, but we're good. We're good.
We're all good.
Yeah, so behind the scenes look at the podcast. We just basically copy and paste last week's notes every week, so that usually is what gets us in trouble.
Yeah.
So.
Well, actually, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't even copy and paste. I just duplicate the document.
That's all
so
I do. Exactly.
There's no paste whatsoever. It's the least amount of work possible.
Yeah, no, it's a copy inside of Google Doc, and then yep, that's exactly what I do.
I created a template once, and then we changed stuff in the middle of a show. And then every time I used the template, that stuff wasn't in the show notes, so I just said, screw it. I started going the James route and just copying the old one over.
Hey, I've lived my life one easy road at a time.
Yeah.
All the way to this successful endeavor.
Google Docs. If it wasn't for Google Docs, this podcast wouldn't exist.
Google Docs and I think Zoom probably gets a little bit of credit.
Yeah, Zoom gets some credit for sure.
Clean feed now, but
a lot of Skype. Skype was our go-to for a while.
Yep.
Long time. God. Skype was the go-to before everybody was video conferencing.
That's right. Yes, it was.
Our whole plan was originally in this show was to record in person. We actually started 2 weeks late because we couldn't hook up together in person. And we said, well, we'll do one remote and see how it goes, and then we'll plan to do in person from there forward. And then we've pretty much exclusively done them remote, except for when I was living in a camper and we had to do it in person.
Yeah.
And I think we had like two where we've met up and done it. Otherwise, it's all been remote.
We did 2 at your place and like 6 of them at my place for a while. But we were remote before remote was cool.
Yeah.
So here we are.
There you go. We're just kind of dragging our feet here before we get into Talladega. We don't have a whole lot to talk about this week.
Yeah, there's not a lot of news. We were hemming and hawing before we started recording, and I said, Eric, did I miss anything? And he said no. So I'm going to throw that right on your plate, Eric.
Yeah,
so if we missed any news, I think it's on you.
We're recording on Tuesday again, so the news will all break tomorrow.
That's right.
I've already lost interest in the top 75 drivers, so I don't care about that anymore.
Congratulations to Carl Edwards and Ron Hornaday this week so far.
Carl Edwards, ironically, was named right after the Kenny Wallace notifying or being told by Carl Edwards that he was asked not to be chosen broke, which I saw a comment on Reddit after he was announced, and it's the person who actually thought that Kenny Wallace was the one tasked by NASCAR to be calling drivers to inform them that they're part of the top 75. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, he's... Yeah, God, Kenny Wallace.
Kenny Wallace can't even work Twitter well enough to reply to the right damn thread. That's how this whole rumor got started.
I know. Well, we all knew Carl was getting in. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ken.
Yeah, I don't think Carl gets to say, I'm not, please don't choose me. They're going to choose him anyway. I think the fans chose these, didn't they?
Yep.
So
I think so. Part of it, yeah.
Like, come on. But Carl, I don't get this thing. Just because Carl's not at the track, I don't get this thing where everybody thinks that Carl just hates NASCAR. He's done interviews. He's got other stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't do this about Cale Yarborough. When Yarborough left, we didn't do this about the other. I don't get it.
It's not like Ernie Irvin stuck around either.
Right.
When he retired, he was gone, and that was it.
Right.
So, yep.
Leave Carl alone.
Good times. Yeah. leave Carl. Wasn't that a YouTube video back in the day?
Maybe.
Leave Brittany alone or something. Leave Carl alone.
Leave Brittany alone. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we could.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that's our new. Maybe that's our. Maybe that's how we get famous, Eric. We just start a meme or something, and we'll be all set.
There you go. Well, James, we had one of my favorite race weekends of the year this weekend. Talladega Superspeedway, the spring race at Talladega. And old Kyle Busch lucked into one, as he said about Daytona. Gets himself a win with some bad blocks ahead of him.
Yep.
And Kyle benefits from it by leading after the caution comes out, because we don't race back to the checkered flag in these things anymore. We just race to the caution.
I tell you what, we've got Daytona 2 coming up, and I'm wondering if I, for our picks pool, if I just need to hang on to Kyle for a little bit longer here,
maybe
till the end of the season, because he basically won the Daytona 500, even though it was the Daytona 510.
Yeah.
And then
wasn't it like the Daytona 520? It was like ridiculous.
It was a lot. He led lap 200. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
But Kyle, how many years between, what was it, 2008 or 2009 was his last win?
I think it was 2008, they said.
Yeah, so man, I mean, that was his first year with Gibbs, so it's been a long time for Kyle.
He's been there though. I mean, it's not like he hasn't been in the running. He's just gotten caught up in wrecks.
Yeah, and he I was listening to, I think this was on Nate Ryan's podcast, but they were talking about Kyle, maybe it was the Teardown too, but they were talking about how Kyle just doesn't see the risk. He doesn't gamble like other drivers do. He doesn't like the risk ever since 2015. And to compare, you see Kyle Larson, he's taken 2 huge poundings in the super speedway races.
I mean, Kyle Larson wrecks in every super speedway race.
Yes,
so.
but he's been up there too. I mean, it's not like those guys are, just because they don't win a lot. I mean, Kurt, for all the years, Kurt was an excellent plate racer for many years, just never got the win, and then finally broke through at the Daytona 500. But Kurt was always there, and Kyle, Kyle's always been kind of around, and like you said, Eric, he didn't wreck, he got lucky. I guess on the right side.
And I think you've got something as far as his injuries there at Daytona, because he used to run restrictor plate races all the time. I mean, you'd always see him in the truck at Daytona. You'd see him in the Xfinity race, and we haven't seen him in a restrictor plate race outside of the Cup Series where he has to run them. I don't think since then. So I think you got something there. I think his feelings of super speedway racing definitely changed with that accident, which don't think you can blame him.
No,
obviously they fixed the track, so that in theory that won't happen again. But I mean, Kyle's taken some pretty damn hard hits over the years and the super speedways. So but
and he's been in contention. He's had some pretty famous moments. At super speedway tracks. Daytona, he's had some success, and it's not like he hasn't been able to do it. But it was nice to see it break his way a little bit, and now he's got his second win of the year and a big win for Childress. Getting another win at Talladega for those guys. The 8 car back in victory lane at Talladega, another cool story. So a lot of cool storylines for Kyle Busch breaking through. But Eric, I think too, with this win, we got a taste of it at Auto Club, and I think Kyle's becoming one of the guys now, like one of the guys that the fans want to cheer for a little bit.
Yeah, there were still some boos there, but it wasn't like normal.
But
one other thing worth mentioning. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say you slap a little underdog storyline on him. And, you and I had always wondered if Kyle would ever get to that point that Jeff Gordon and even Jimmy Johnson had gotten to late in their careers. And the funny thing is Kyle still had some of his peak of his powers. So it's going to be interesting to see the rest of this year play out, but heck of a win. Sorry, I took your point. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just going to, we mentioned before we started recording, and it's worth mentioning here on the podcast too, that McLaren Custom Grills, which sponsored this car, saw massive sales after this win, and also that crashed their website. So those people who think that NASCAR doesn't have any power for a sponsor anymore are wrong.
Right.
So, so very cool. I mean, we get a new sponsor in Victory Lane too. Just another one of those storylines that's just cool about this race.
Exactly.
And then we had the new king of Talladega until the last lap. Bubba Wallace almost got himself another win at Talladega with the boss in house, sitting on the pit box.
I wanted it.
Yeah,
I wanted to see MJ celebrate in Victory Lane. That would have been so sweet.
One too many blocks on Ryan Blaney and gets him turned.
Yeah,
and
I think the third one was.
Yeah, well, Freddie Kraft argues there were only 2 blocks. The first one wasn't a block; it was just getting loose. But anyway, either way, the last block was the one that did him in, and I think it's tough because, and I think it was Denny talked about it on his podcast that where we're at now. You don't make that block. These cars, you can't block with these cars like you could. Yeah. And if he wouldn't have blocked, he likely would have still had a chance to race for it. I mean, there were 2 miles left in that race. I mean, sure, there could have been a wreck from somebody else, right around the next turn, at any point in that lap, but I think he's still got a shot at the win if he lets Blaney go, because Blaney didn't have any help.
Yeah, and Bubba's one where you can see him rattled at the front of the field. It's noticeable.
Yeah, he starts to panic.
Yep, and if guys like me can see it, and I watch, I watch every week, but it stands out. And I'm no expert by any means, but you can see Danica Patrick had some of this too. Whenever she was out front, you could visually see the nerves and the misdirection of where they need to be. And you're right, Eric, because I was when he went to block again. That's the credo that these drivers follow. Block me once, fine. Yep. Block me twice, you've made your bed. You're in trouble.
Well, and Blaney didn't do anything wrong. He was doing what he's going to do, and it's just what happens in these races.
It's a racing thing.
The other argument though is that if we go back to Atlanta, which obviously Atlanta's a completely different beast, and we're in turn 3, and it's a much shorter run back to the line, but Brad Keselowski doesn't make the block.
That's right.
Loses the race. So I mean, who's to say he made the wrong move? I guess it's really easy to sit back and like Freddie Kraft was saying on Door Bumper Clear, you can rewatch it 50,000 times, and every time you watch it, you see something different you could have done. But in that moment, you've got fractions of a second to make that decision, and it just. If you make a wrong decision, it's amplified in those situations.
Right. And I think, the really great drivers at the super speedway races, they will always make the move to live to fight another day.
Yep.
And when you're in turns 1 and 2, you've got time to fight still. Yeah. Even if you don't wreck and you end up second, third, whatever, you get railroaded on the outside or whatever it is, you take yourself out of it before you even get a chance to redeem yourself and get back in it. And I would have liked to have seen Bubba hold the line and give himself another shot. Well, because I think he could have had it.
A second place finish is a lot better than 28th, which is where he ended up.
Right. And I know we're in an era where wins mean everything and you get locked into the playoffs, but again, you don't, he threw his sword down when there was still, 3/4 of a fight left to fight. And he didn't have anything to fight back with. He was done. He took himself completely out of it. And that's where I would say, hopefully lesson learned here. And, I know the rest of the field is probably looking at that as well, thinking, the same thing. If I'm in that situation, maybe I don't double block, triple block. Maybe I do hold the line. But this whole race was kind of holding the line, I think, just to tie it together. There wasn't a whole lot of, sometimes we get a third line going, and it's hard. These cars, they just don't maneuver through the field as well as they did in the past. So not a fair comparison, but
I have an issue with that. And part of that issue comes with Junior's podcast today, because he brought it up, but it's just something that I saw. Like, I get this whole argument that they can't pass, they can't make moves, James, but you notice when it matters, they can. I mean, these absolutely. Cars can get runs, they can make moves. I think it has more to do with the smarts of the drivers. I think these guys have learned when to make the moves and when not to.
Yep.
And I think they're riding more carefully. And I think the other thing with these super speedways, and I hate to be on this bandwagon again because I love stage racing, but I think the stages in these races hurts them, because the first 2 stages, you're not racing. You are just getting to the race. This is the same thing as back when NASCAR decided to do heat races in the Cup Series a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And everybody, or in the Xfinity, I can't remember, it was the Xfinity Series, I guess. And everybody goes out and they just ride in a heat race because they don't want to tear their crap up. They want to be able to race in the actual race. Well, we've got heat races now. We just have a caution between instead of a break. And so these guys, they know better than to tear their stuff up in the first 2 stages. So your first 2 stages are dull. And then you get to the third stage and it actually matters. And that's when you see that third line working. That's when you see these guys working together. Not only that, but because you know when the cautions are, you play the fuel strategy game that we hate on the road courses. And that messes everything up too. And we suddenly have a fuel mileage super speedway race, which is the ridiculous thing. So I hate to say get rid of the stages, but you know what? I think we need to get rid of them here as well. And I think the stages were great when we came up with them because it forced people to race in the first two parts of the race when they normally wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I think everybody's figured it out now, and I don't think they race in the first two stages anymore.
Well,
Your whole race is about surviving to the final stage.
Right, and that's the problem when you have too much data.
Yeah.
And that's the era that we're in. We know everything about everything. The numbers don't lie. And
these guys are too good to have these many known variables in a race.
But you can even, look at Brad Keselowski. Bailed out each stage and took himself completely out of the stages, and then, like you said, Eric, he was able to get through the field through, some cautions and some strategy, and all of a sudden he's fighting for the win, and he's got a shot there if he doesn't get caught up in the Bubba wreck, and he's, could possibly win this race, gets a top 5. I mean, a solid points day. He doesn't care about stage points. He's just trying to get that win.
In stage 1 and stage 2, if you're 15th, you're not getting stage points, so you just
don't wreck.
Yeah.
Yep, you just back off. Denny Hamlin did it. Yep. I saw Denny Hamlin do it. I saw a bunch of guys they weren't in the top 15, top 20, they just bail out.
Yep, because you're guaranteed a caution.
Exactly, because you can't argue with them. You're not going to lose the draft enough to lose a lap. I mean, the stage is over. You're going to catch right back up. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. You made a really solid argument there that I'm not gonna argue. I do think that I'm guilty of this. I fell victim to, and this happens a lot to me. Is every week, the week of the race, we've got all this stuff on social media showing us highlights of old stuff.
Yeah.
And I got into the Talladega rabbit hole of, some of the early 2000s when we were at our, Talladega racing was just unbelievable back then.
Right.
And it's fresh in your mind and you start to compare. Even if a race is good, like this one was, this was a decent race, you can't compare to what 2002, 2003 were.
No.
It's just it was just an amazing era for these race cars back then.
Honestly, if you want that, you should just watch Saturday.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, that's a 10-hour commitment. We'll get
yeah.
We'll get into that, but yeah, 100%. It's I just saw some of those videos this week, and then I watched on Sunday. I'm like, oh, that's a good race, but dang, I remember, man, I just saw this stuff on 2004, and it was fantastic.
I'm having a really hard time right now because all I can think about is how much better the other car was. And we went through all this development and time and to learn to build this new car, to have it just throw us a ton of curveballs that we haven't figured out yet. And it's really frustrating.
Yep. And then we took an extra year because of the pandemic to research and develop.
Yeah.
And we're still not there. It seems like this is probably a good point to tie in the Ryan Preece, Kyle Larson incident because, all the advancements to the racing we've looked at, and then you see some glaring issues in safety. Things in safety.
I agree and disagree on this because, I know there's a lot being said about what happened to Larson's car and the way Larson's car looked. First of all, we only got a quick glimpse at it. And second of all, it is the right side of the car. And that side of the car has room to collapse. It's no different than, we relived that Mark Martin incident at Michigan multiple times where he slid onto pit road and the wall went through the side of the car behind his seat. And everybody said, wow, man, if he was up or if he was back just a few more inches, that would have went right through the seat. It could have killed him. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but probably not because the part around the driver is built better than what that
there's
piece
a lot
was.
Of exactly.
So
there's a lot of reinforcement there.
Yeah, I would argue that just looking at the car, we're probably seeing it as worse than it actually is. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's bars that are disconnected in there, and certainly something that could hit Kyle Larson, and that's terrible. That's dangerous. And I know that there's going to be work to be done there. And the hit that Preece took, my God, I think part of that is because we don't get that camera angle a lot of times in those types of accidents. But he was going full throttle and slammed into Larson. I mean, you can't hit any harder than that.
Yeah. And unless they were at full song, which thankfully they weren't at full song.
And I'm not saying there's no work to be done because there is. And Junior talks about this a lot on his podcast this week. I think there's definitely room in the crush zones in the front and rear of these cars, especially the front. Look at Preece's car after the accident. You could hardly tell that he ran into somebody, let alone that he hit somebody at 190 miles an hour. So there's room there to work, but I don't take this as if Larson would have been hit on the driver's side, I don't think it'd have been the same situation. That side of the car is not going to crush like this.
Yeah, and I think, too, what happened in that wreck was we saw two things that people just don't see anymore with these cars, or very often, I should say. One, like you said, Eric, the roll cage caving in like it did.
Right.
You don't see the bars ever bend quite like that.
Right.
Very often. Two, the one that shocked me was how far the camera moved on Preece's accident. Yeah. I mean, he hit so hard the camera, the camera, completely shifted.
Well, freaking knocked his visor up, and some people are claiming he hit the steering wheel, but I don't think he did. I think it just the force knocked the visor up.
Yeah, I think that, and Kevin Harvick was telling him. I saw an interview with Preece this afternoon that said Harvick said you got to do a little bit better job with your belts and your harness, and we got to fit you a little bit better. So that's probably part of it too. But man, what a hit!
Yeah.
And like you said, Eric, the cars are plenty. Well, maybe that's not the right word. The cars are safe to a certain extent.
They both walked away.
They were treated and released, and that's what you want.
Yep.
And, we're not, another good thing we're not seeing so far this year, and I'm knocking on wood, we're not seeing the concussion issues so far early in this season. So the improvements are there. It's just, we're still working our way through it. And like we were talking about earlier, it's, how long now we're going to be going on, almost 4.5, 5 years of development on this car, probably more at this point. So,
well, the other thing I'll say too, is that we saw two cars wheels up on Saturday, and none of them even so much as lifted off the ground on Sunday. So that's another positive. Yep. Harrison Burton certainly tried. He put himself in about the best position to go airborne at Talladega, but managed to not get around backwards and keep it on the ground.
And he was the first one ever to flip one of these.
Yeah. He was trying to do it again.
Try it again.
But yeah, so like I said, there's a learning process. I don't think that there's as much work that needs to be done on these cars to make them race good on a super speedway. I think the mindset is the biggest issue. I think there's probably a couple things you could tweak with the car.
I think NASCAR's got bigger fish to fry.
Oh yeah,
right now
the short tracks are the concern. Yeah. That's where we're working right now, and that's where it needs to be. This race was an acceptable Talladega race. You still got everything. You got side by side racing. You got some 3-wide racing. You got the big wrecks. You got the crazy finish. You really got everything you could ask for at Talladega. Could it have been better? Yes, but it was acceptable. I don't have any real complaints about the racing itself. Now I would love to just put the old car back out there and race that one, but we're not going to get that option. So, or run the Xfinity cars.
And I wonder too if we found a way to increase the urgency on the field, if the racing would dial up a little bit. But then you're increasing the danger. So what are your goals really?
I mean, you can make it a 400 race, 300
miles.
Make it exactly 400. Yeah. Why are we running 500 miles in the middle of the season? It's not a special race. Just run 500 miles in the fall when we're racing for a playoff spot. But why the hell are we running a 500-mile race in freaking April at Talladega?
Because it's Dega. Yeah.
No, it's stupid. Stop it. No reason to be running 500 miles almost anywhere anymore.
I did message you. Remember when Talladega was special? So I'm glad you hinted back at that for me. It is still special. I still love going there.
It is. I mean, I still want to go there. It's still on my bucket list.
It's a different era we're in. That's all.
Yeah. The problem with Talladega for me is that it's just at a terrible spot in the schedule. Both races are terrible spots in the schedule for me to ever get there. But one of these days I'm going to get to Talladega. Would be remiss if we didn't mention Ryan Blaney, who got another second place finish on a super speedway. Yeah. You mentioned Brad Keselowski, but Chris Buescher was third. Keselowski finished fifth, so great run for the RFK cars. Not surprisingly on a super speedway.
You said Chase. Yeah. You said Chase Briscoe, and what a day he had.
Yeah, right.
Flat tire on pit road, lost 2 laps doing burnouts, and that son of a gun, he ended up 4th place.
Yeah,
well, it's a pretty good day if you ask me.
Yeah, and you talk
even
about,
if he was embarrassed.
You talk about, it's hard to pass and it's all track position, but if you look at the front of the field, I mean, you see the guys that you always see at the front of the field: Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe, Brad Keselowski, Eric Jones finished 6th, William Byron's in 7th, Christopher Bell's good on these in 8th, Daniel Suarez has been good lately in 9th. I mean, these are guys that you see up there. So, and we obviously know where Bubba ran. Bubba was up there. Denny Hamlin was up there at points. It just didn't
Chase
work
Elliott
out
and
in the end.
Eric Almirola, they won stages. They're good at these places.
I mean, it's what you always see at these races is the same guys, except for Austin Dillon, who finished last.
Well, yeah, and Joey Logano, he was good, but he made a silly mistake like he does. He'll tend to do. Noah Gragson doesn't get the finish, but he had a good day, and then
but he made a rookie mistake, and he's the one. Well, no, he made a rookie mistake.
I know, I'm just doing a thing.
Yeah, he made a rookie mistake and tried to make. Well, he didn't try to make. He made Ross look bad, but that was all on Noah. There's no reason he should have been going up the track there. He should not have left that
Sometimes
space.
People can blame other things around the hurricane, but the hurricane's always there. So
if you're gonna leave 3 feet for Ross, he's gonna shove a 6-foot car in there.
That's right. Yep. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yep.
And
just
you can't blame
keep
him.
the door locked.
It was a green-white checker. He's got to do it.
Listen, if Ross is behind you, bar the door, man.
Yeah.
Don't give him a crack.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna take you out.
Make him push you.
It's right. He's fast, if anything. If you can give him to push you, but if you give him 2 centimeters, he's gonna think that he can shove the whole car through it. So.
Yep. That's
such a funny way to describe Ross. He really is the camel through the eye of the needle of NASCAR.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Yeah, that is what he does. I am, as you know, not a giant fan of your buddy Nick Bromberg, but one of my favorite things he does, I'm trying to find it here real quick.
Yeah, the Richard Petty
my
stat.
favorite thing he does every time Kyle Busch wins, he tweets 2 days ago, Richard Petty is now 27 wins away from Kyle Busch's 227 wins. What a time to be alive. I love it.
That's been going on for a long time.
I love that he's continued it.
He started doing that when Kyle was in the 150s,
right,
catching up to Richard's 200. Yeah, it's really good. It's one of the most sarcastic things on Twitter if you ever stumble across it. It's really enjoyable.
That's saying a lot about Twitter. But 62 wins for Kyle Busch in 652 Cup Series races. So
yeah, we were Eric. You were goating Kyle Larson last week, and then the other Kyle, the other goat Kyle, snuck in. It's just, he's got to get. I'm telling you, if he's gonna win, I mean, he hasn't won more than 2 races since 2019. So now he's got a chance here to have.
And they haven't even run good this year.
No, but he's definitely running. He's running a lot better than he did last year.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, but we know that contract stuff just killed him last year. Between the contract stuff and the new car and how Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota struggled with that new car.
Yeah,
it was all bad last year. For
that 8 car won last year, and we talked about this when we found out that Kyle was going there. As good as Tyler Reddick is, you're elevating your program.
Yeah,
there's not many guys better than Tyler Reddick, but Kyle Busch is one of them. So your program is getting better, and you have the benefit of Kyle Busch has been doing this for 15 years at Joe Gibbs Racing, and he won a freaking ton of races over there.
Yep.
He knows what goes into a winning program, and he can tell you what that looks like.
Well, and I think you could argue Kyle's not having the best of seasons, but I think he's outrun Tyler Reddick at this point.
This is so statistically right now this is his best season in 4 years.
Yeah, that's not saying a lot, but yeah.
No, he's struggled. He has struggled since his massive 2018 and 2019 seasons, which were just off the charts.
Right.
He's not quite in that zone, but he's improved. He's in the middle of where he's been to where he, where he wants to go. I mean, his career average finish all time is 13.7, and he's 12.2 right now. So, of the all-time Kyle Busch average seasons, he's above average. So that's pretty good.
KFB.
There you go.
KFB. So Eric, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
So we've got the Kyles.
Yes.
What should I put the over/under at for total wins between the Kyles combined this year? I was thinking 10.5 was probably too high. Maybe 9.5 between the two of them, and then you have to take the over/under. Because if it's at 9.5, I think these two guys to combine could definitely get to 10.
I'd take the over on that. I think just Kyle Larson alone will get you there.
Kyle Larson's probably going to get you 7, 8.
I would think so.
One of those years, and that gets you to 10 already. So
I mean, I think once we get back to traditional tracks, you're going to see that 5-car light up again.
Yeah, and the 8-car is not terrible. I mean, they've got, and the good thing for them is they're set. They can kind of fiddle around here a little bit, and
they're locked in for good now.
Try to and focus on getting that 3-car in, and what Kyle can see that can be improved. And
to go back to your question, I think the only thing that hurts the 5-car right now is that the 9-car is back. You know, that Chase is back.
The 5 has to deal with the 9 and the 24 as well, because I don't think the 24 is going away.
I don't think so either. And then the 48 is probably going to sneak in and get a win somewhere.
He'll steal one, and everybody will get ticked off.
Yeah, the hack.
Yep, the hack. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, it's fun having Kyle back in the mix. He hasn't really been mixing it up the last few years, so I'm happy.
I agree
when he's back in there.
One other one I wanted to mention: highest finishing rookie in this race was Ty Gibbs in 31st, but that's not the story of the day. I thought Ty ran just a smart, good super speedway race, and it's amazing. And I think it was referenced. On the broadcast. Just amazing the change in him from last year to this year, and I mean he's matured a ton. He's just doing what he needs to do. Clicking along, getting good finishes. You don't notice him out there, and that's good for a rookie.
That's what you want. Yeah, that's what you want. Yep.
So he's not making stupid mistakes. He got those out of the way, and I mean, he really hasn't made those in the Cup Series at all. He was making them all in the Xfinity Series. So.
No, he's not leading laps, but he's performing at where the car needs to perform. He's racked up top 10s. Like he had a nice top 10 streak going before Martinsville, and even then, he finished all the laps. Was probably going to finish all the laps here as well before getting caught up in some crap. But
he ran out of fuel at the end, which is what
exactly. Yeah. So and that was and we didn't talk about that with Kyle Busch, but they
were close.
Pitting, so
Kyle overruled it and said no and stayed out.
Yep, and that's the benefit of having a win in your pocket.
Yeah,
you can make a decision like that and go for it. Yep. So that's the beauty of the system. I actually love that part of our system that we have. So.
And Denny said they should have done that too, and I agree. I think you're teams, in that situation. You don't pit.
No.
You just don't. You're given. I mean, you might as well, if you're going to pit, you might as well just park it. So in that case, just run out of fuel.
Yeah, exactly. And then pull out. Yeah, stay on the inside. You stay out of trouble.
If it was the old Talladega and you could come up and you could get 20 spots in one lap, sure.
Yeah.
But you can't do that anymore. So unless you're planning on avoiding, a giant wreck, screw the fuel, and again, you're not probably racing, 2 laps at the end. You're racing however long it takes. You're racing the white flag lap and until the caution. That's what you're racing for.
There's exactly. And if there's another green, white checker that happens, then maybe then you have to pit. But until then, just ride it out, baby.
I would like to see NASCAR get rid of the, maintain caution speed rule in an overtime situation as well, because if you've gone into overtime already and the caution comes out, the race should be over. These guys, and it was referenced in, I think TJ Majors referenced it on Door Bumper Clear, these guys still race back to the line. They're trying to rush back to the line. They're trying to make passes on this last lap under caution. And if you just end the race and that's it, then you don't have to do any of that crap. And it's all about safety, right? You've already run past the scheduled distance. That last lap doesn't count. Right. Nothing changes. So it should be over. When the caution comes out, it's over.
Sure. I'm fine with that.
So, and obviously Kyle would have been an even better situation then. But I don't know. Yeah. It's something that doesn't really rear its head very often, but it's just something I thought about that. Let's just end
he had enough fuel to go all the way back around and do a quick burnout. He was fine.
Yeah, no problem.
Wasn't even a thing.
Well, James, were you tired on Sunday after sitting through the Xfinity race?
I didn't hang out with the Xfinity series as much as you did, so I think I was okay.
I will say
that was a long one though.
I watched it delayed, and so here's the best part of this race. So I'm watching this race, and I'm watching it on YouTube TV, and I get to the point in the race where they start talking about the Tigers game was supposed to be on afterwards, and like if you're turning in for the Tigers, you can tune into Fox. It's on Fox Sports 2 until the race is over. And I'm skipping through the commercials at this point, and I notice that the recording of the race is only like halfway through. So YouTube TV automatically extends the end of the recording because it records everything automatically. It automatically extends the end of the recording to get the end of the race. And so because I'm only halfway through it, it's like there were like 30 laps to go at this point. I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody's going to hit the fence or there's going to be a long red flag. Something's going to happen here that there's going to be a huge break because there's no way it's going to take 2 hours to run 30 laps. And sure enough,
it sure did.
Sure enough, yeah.
Somehow the Xfinity Series race was just as long as the Cup Series race and half the distance.
So I have a question for you. First of all, congratulations to Jeb Burton getting the win. Jeb Burton's second win, Jordan Anderson's first win as a team owner. Very cool.
Yep.
Especially coming back to Talladega for the first time after Jordan Anderson got hurt last year with the fire. They had a cool retrospective before the race on that as well, which was pretty neat. So good on them to get this done. James, do you have any issue with Fox immediately cutting to commercial after these accidents to make sure everybody's okay before they start, rather than staying there? And because I heard people complaining about it.
I don't know. I mean, that's the nature of the business. You got to get the commercials stuffed in there. So I mean, I understand what it is.
I mean, I do remember the days when we used to zoom the camera in on the accident and like start showing replays before we knew whether people were okay or not. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't really have an issue with it. At least give them a chance to figure out what's going on before they start throwing replays at us.
Right.
But I don't know. The journalist in me says we should get to see the replay regardless of what happens. And it really bothers me that we don't get to see it if somebody gets hurt. So I don't know.
It's tough because it's just they're trying to get as many as I don't know. They're trying to get as many in as they can. I understand it. It's tough. It's always going to be that way, and it's even more so now. This is the way live sports is just going to be, unfortunately, for everybody. I mean, every NFL does it too.
Yeah.
They cut to commercials immediately, usually.
So two massive wrecks in this race. Blaine Perkins tumbles down the backstretch in a pretty rough accident. And then, of course,
okay.
Yeah, thankfully okay. And then Daniel Hemrick tries to duplicate the Tony Stewart accident from several years ago and flips it, slides down the banking on his roof. Again, everybody okay. Man, we didn't get to see the repairs and stuff they did, but they had to replace the foam in a bunch of those of the safer barrier because that front tire dug right into that foam, and that's what flipped that sucker over.
Yeah.
Really lucky it didn't get in the catch fence, but man, just this race was wild. Just absolutely wild.
Almost like an ARCA race.
Yeah, I mean the ARCA race didn't have much for wrecks.
I know. So
this was the crazy race.
Yeah. And we were laughing about earlier this week about a race from over a decade ago at Talladega that had 3 drivers on the lead lap. Boy, I thought we were going to get there.
Yeah. I think they said there were 7 cars at the end of the race that weren't involved in something.
Jeez. I mean, that makes sense.
What is RCR doing with that 21 car? I know he finished 18th, but that freaking car in this race.
It's Austin Hill, man.
Holy hell, man.
He's just, I don't know. He's got a knack for it. He's just really good, and I think they got a fast piece, so I don't know. He's always hanging around, man.
Just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
He's always in there. I don't understand it. Eric, all of his wins, he's got 5 career wins. One of them is not a super speedway, if you want to count Atlanta.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
The best thing about races like this where you have a lot of attrition are looking at the order at the front. Obviously, Jeb Burton gets the win, which is an underdog win. Sheldon Creed's in second. Not a surprise there. Then you get Parker Kligerman, who's always sneaky good at these races.
Not a surprise, yep.
Cole Custer's up there. And then we get to Brennan Poole in 5th. Caesar Baccarella in 6th. Parker Retzlaff, who I believe was in the first wreck of the day, who comes back to finish 7th. Gray Galding 8th. Joey Gase 9th. Josh Williams 10th. Ryan Ellis 11th. Yeah. I mean, CJ McLaughlin in 13th. Brandon Jones finishes 14th after having a tire go through the front of his car.
Yeah, that's just the Xfinity Series, man. It's unbelievable.
But I mean, the thing is, James, is this race, I mean, these cars handle like we want the Cup cars to handle. They're a handful.
Yep.
And of course you add that to the lower skill level, I guess, not to put anybody down in this series, but lower skill level, more urgency, and you end up with these big wrecks. But yeah, I wish that the Cup cars raced more like these Xfinity cars every week. Every week, I wish they did.
Yep, I know, missing out.
Yes. So second victory in 118 wins or 118 races for Jeb Burton. First win for Jordan Anderson. Very, very cool to see that get done. Jordan almost got himself a win in the Truck Series a few years ago back at Daytona. Yeah, very cool. Very cool to see that. Sheldon Creed second. Sheldon still doesn't want to race, right? In Xfinity Series?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
It was interesting because they said they had a stat at the end of the race that only two of the top 10 cars had won a race before. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out, I was like, Sheldon Creed's up there. And I'm like, who the hell there's got to be more than two. And I'm like, no, Sheldon Creed doesn't have a win. The one who does is Jeb Burton.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I forgot Jeb had a win. So
Yep. Jeb snuck one in there, and then now he's got another one to add. So that's good for that team. They're going to make the playoff now. They should anyway. So pretty cool for them. And I know that team, has like you said, Eric. There was the bad wreck last year, but that team has slowly been building from a Truck Series operation. 2-car Xfinity Series operation now.
Well, and I really like Jordan Anderson, but I think Jordan Anderson, team owner, is a lot better than Jordan Anderson, the driver.
Yeah, he's got that Justin Marks kind of cut from that type of cloth. Like, decent driver, but he's got a good personality and has a knack for, picking good drivers. And, he's kind of doing with what he's got. Yeah. There's not a lot of budget there. So
I mean, his team has outperformed where it should be since he was in the Truck Series. Yeah,
it always has. Yeah, always has consistently outperformed themselves. It's definitely. I want to see what that team is looking like in about 5 years.
Yeah,
and where they're at, because I don't know if they're going to be in the Cup Series or anything like that. But I bet you they'll be. I bet you. I wouldn't put my house on it. But I would say if they're not in that colleague, or maybe the early days of colleague in the next couple of years, I would be surprised.
Yeah, they're building to get themselves I mean, Jeb Burton's not a slouch, and they're building to get themselves a good driver in there and be able to contend for championships in the Xfinity Series for sure.
Yep, I think that's a realistic expectation for them in the next half decade for sure.
And a race win will go a long ways toward that.
It helps, absolutely. Every little bit helps, and you get that playoff bonus.
Yeah, so you're in the playoffs now, and that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, you steal another win, and you're up even higher.
Yeah, and I mean, then you run some good finishes in the playoffs. You get yourself a nice high finish, get that nice season end bonus, and you're good to go.
There you go. So, yes, sir.
That's how it happens. That's how it happens nowadays, James.
You can make it, man. You can climb the ladder. Not many do, but you can be done.
Yep. All right. Not a whole lot in the news department. We have, I mean, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but we did get our announcer announcement for SRX today.
Yes, we did.
Happy to report that Alan Bestwick returns to ESPN as the play-by-play guy. So happy. I was so worried they were going to lose Alan.
Oh, we're good. Alan Bestwick back to ESPN.
What do you think of Joey Logano, Darrell Waltrip, and Connor Daly as driver analysts?
I love that whole trio. Makes me happy. Connor Daly, pretty rough around the edges, but he's all right.
I'm excited to see Darrell Waltrip not on Fox. Yes. And see what we get. I hope we get less goofy Darrell Waltrip.
And Joey Logano is very good at calling a race.
Joey is so good in the booth.
Him and Brad. Brad's great too.
I love having him and Brad together in the booth.
Yep.
I really like having them. You can tell that. I know that they had their struggles at Penske together at times, but those two have respect for each other, and I really like it.
I mean, Brad brought him in there to win a couple of cups, so no doubt about it. They've got some sort of chemistry, so that's good.
Yep, for sure. It's a good lineup for sure.
I'm happy about that.
Yeah, me too. There's some news this week on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. commenting on the pit crew swap with the 17 team. Of course, he gets pit crews through Roush Fenway Racing, and there was a swap. Basically, his entire team. Stenhouse made some comments in the media center about the fact that the team had been together since last year, and then suddenly they just kind of unannounced swapped them out. Brad kind of blew it off when he was asked about it and said, first of all, I don't know why he doesn't talk to me, which seems to be the common thing now. And kind of just said that that's the plan. That's like he got a better pit crew than what he had before. Is this something you think, James? Or I mean,
Ricky was agitated about it, and
but Ricky's a driver.
I know,
it's different with Brad answering the question because Brad's a team owner. He's part of this process. Ricky's just a driver.
Right, and I can understand Ricky coming from the point of this aspect where he had his career milestone with this group of dudes.
Right.
And they've been running really well together. And you, as a driver, when you've got something clicking, you don't want that chemistry to be, messed up. So I understand why he'd be a little frustrated.
You know how you solve that problem?
Get your own dang pit crew.
Hire your own damn pit crew.
That's right. that's the hard part, and that's you got to understand when you're leasing this situation through Keselowski, Roush Keselowski Fenway.
Roush Fenway Keselowski.
Thank you.
That's all right. I didn't have to say JTG Doherty. Hey, I got it.
You did. You got it. Yeah. I mean, that's the nature of the beast, man. The big guys are, and RFK is one of the little guys compared to some, but when they've got a chance to improve their team, they're going to do it.
Wasn't
their pit crew?
Isn't Denny this year did their own pit crews for the same reason?
Oh, last year it was a big kerfuffle, I think, wasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean,
he was there. Everybody was all ticked off. Yeah.
If you're not happy with it, build your own pit crew.
That's right. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. And I do feel for Stenhouse, though, because he's finally, he's not wrecking. He's running good. He's got the 500 win. He's in the playoffs, and now it's getting messed with. And I can understand when you've got good chemistry, you don't want to touch it. And I get that. I totally get that. But again, that's not your problem, man.
Right.
It's out of your control. You can't do anything about it.
Get in the car and drive. And
the pit crew going to hit his old car. Yeah, exactly. And the pit crew going to his old car probably stings a little bit too.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit there. Yep. So
understandable.
Denny Hamlin talking in his podcast this week, James, he came up with a way to fix ratings in NASCAR.
Oh my God.
So I'll break it down real quick, and I'm breaking it down from memory. Essentially, Denny's plan is to take about 10 races in, or a certain point in the season, you take the top 32 drivers in points, and you create a bracket. And the first place driver is matched up against the 32nd driver, and the second place driver is matched up against the 31st place driver, and so on and so forth. And each week, those drivers race head to head, or they're counted head to head in the race. Whoever finishes ahead of who moves on. Whoever finishes behind is eliminated. And you basically whittle it down until you get your final two, and they race for $3 million, was Denny's suggestion.
$3 million, woohoo!
$3 million. He claims that the teams will race differently. They will change strategy in order to compete for this, and that it will drive betting and interest and ratings, and make the racing more interesting to the fans in the summer when it tends to get a little dull, I guess, in Denny's mind.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on Denny's plan? Is this the saving grace that NASCAR needs to fix the ratings issue, the ratings drop, James?
No. You're not fixing ratings by adding a tournament. You know, the NBA is going to try this in a season or two. They're going to have a mid-season tournament with their teams, and I'm not tuning in I'm not watching the race to catch out who's going to win the bracket and blah, blah, blah. And I know he said something about fans winning money.
Yeah.
If anything, he's got a good point that the gambling aspect of it, that'll generate some revenue, but the teams aren't getting that revenue.
Right.
So I ain't doing anything for them. So I mean,
do you think more? Do the NASCAR Xfinity Series races? And I know we're not comparing apples to oranges, but do the NASCAR Xfinity races with the Dash for Cash get better ratings than the races without?
No. And do the teams drive them different?
Not really.
No.
I think you finish where you finish, and you're excited that you get the check at the end of the race. But did the No-Bull 5 really add to the Cup Series? I don't think so.
No. I know Denny's a content creator now, but it's not. This isn't a fix for anything. It's Again, you'll see a bump in betting, which people are going to do anyway when they have a chance to bet on stuff, and they're not going to watch it.
Yeah, I mean your sports books could do this now.
Yeah, they can do it. They can. Eric, we do it every week on the NASCAR Fantasy app.
Right,
we pick drivers over each other every single week.
That's true.
For bonus points for our league.
You're right. We do.
Does that make you watch? How many and Eric? How many times? I know those 40 valuable points are out there for you, but how many times are you checking Stenhouse versus.
I never even look. I don't even remember what the
Busch.
bonuses are.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, if you have money on it, maybe that does affect it. But again, we're not. It doesn't. Not fixing anything. You're just adding more confusion.
I've got nothing to add. I don't think all this does is create a false storyline for TV to talk about and to confuse the fans even more. I just don't think it's necessary. Denny says it's not a gimmick, but it's a gimmick. It is. We got enough gimmicks. We don't need another one.
Yeah, we don't need more confusion. We touched on this right before we started recording, and I harumphed. And you said, hold on. Save it.
Yeah.
So hopefully I delivered a little bit.
Yeah, you did good. You did good.
I was grumpy about it.
You went the way I expected you to go, but I totally agree on it.
I know, and I tried to step out of the character every once in a while.
Well, and when I was listening to Denny talk about it on his podcast today, I'm like, man, it kind of sounds good. Maybe. And then the more I thought about it, it's just like, no, I don't care. And I'm a diehard NASCAR fan, and I don't give a crap. I wouldn't care.
It doesn't matter to me. Yeah,
it's just an artificial champion. It's no different. Does anybody care about the regular season champion? No. It's a championship within a championship.
How many regular season champions do you really? The only thing that matters about that is points.
The Monster Energy Supercross has a triple crown that they do through the season. There's 3 races that they run, special races, and whoever wins the most points in those 3 races is the Triple Crown champion. Guess how many people pay attention to that? Nobody gives a crap.
No, they don't. They don't care about the extra stuff. They're tuning into the event as it is.
Exactly. You care about the champion at the end of the season. The artificial champions in the middle of the season mean nothing.
People care about who wins the race, how their fantasy and gambling did, and who wins the championship.
Yep, and whether Chase Elliott's racing.
Eric, did you know he was racing at Talladega? Because I got all the promoted social media posts.
They must really think you need to know, because I don't get any of those.
Jesus Christmas. Chase Elliott is back at Talladega. And I said to myself, he was back last week. Why am I seeing this ad again?
I get underwear ads on Facebook, apparently, and you get Chase Elliott ads. So I don't know.
You can tell a lot about people by what they get directed to them on Instagram and Twitter, apparently.
Right.
So, good Lord.
James, I want to throw one more at you because we didn't add it on here, but I wanted to get your opinion on it. This week, after Martinsville, Corey LaJoie made comments in an interview and then on his podcast afterwards saying he intentionally tried to wreck Kyle Busch to bring out a caution at Martinsville. Everybody's in an uproar, including Denny Hamlin, who says that Corey LaJoie should be penalized because he essentially did the same thing Denny Hamlin did. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, he should be 25-point penalty.
Yeah, I agree.
If he said it on a podcast or something, yep.
I mean,
that's the precedent.
I disagree that he should be penalized, but I disagree that Denny Hamlin should have been penalized too.
That's right. So if we're going to penalize one, to penalize the other.
But the difference is that Denny Hamlin's podcast is owned by Dirty Mill Media, and Corey LaJoie's podcast is owned by NASCAR.
Yeah, and Corey was talking. I just saw this a little bit ago. He was ranting and raving about how he's so proud of himself for how hard. Oh, here it is. Corey LaJoie, responding to Kyle Busch earlier last week, says he's a pain in the bleep to race and pass. And I take that as a compliment. I really do. It's not my job to be an easy pass.
You know, it's so funny because this always happens. I start to like Corey LaJoie, and then he starts punching above his weight again. And it's like, dude, you are not in the same category as Kyle Busch right now.
If he would just settle in and just do what he's been doing, he's doing great.
Yeah.
And then he gets a little bit above his, what's that, over your skis, right?
Yep.
Isn't that what they say? Over your skis, a little over his skis right now.
Yep.
Which is fine. Do you, man, but just know, I don't know. I want him to be successful because I think he'd be fun in a good car, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah. He just doesn't have the performance to be talking smack to the big dogs yet.
That's right.
Oh, all right, James. It's time to make our picks for this week. I managed to pick the last place driver yet again. I did pick an RCR car. I just picked the wrong one.
Unbelievable.
Your Brad Keselowski pick gets 32 points over my one. So your lead is 361 to 170. I think mathematically you probably won the championship at this point, but
I don't think that's true, but
we'll keep clicking along.
Eric, you
31 point difference again this week.
Eric, you've scored 170 and you're behind 191. I just think that's the funniest part of the whole stat.
I have beat you 2 weeks, and that's it out of 11.
So after I got over laughing about this, because I'm just gonna be honest, it's to the point where I laugh.
I'm laughing too. I think it's funny. The best part is like I saw Austin Dillon running in the middle of the pack, and I'm like, okay, he'll work his way up there. And I kept checking the race throughout, like, where's Austin? He's not. He's still showing. He must be running in the back, whatever. And then I realized that he freaking crashed out and didn't even finish the damn race and finished last.
This was, so to be full honestly, this was the first week where I went, oh man, Eric.
This is my second 1 point week in 3 weeks. And my fourth single digit week of the season.
Unbelievable. It's an unbelievable run. It's really historic, honestly. And I did say out loud, I said, oh man, I actually did feel a little bit bad.
No, I want this to continue.
You should just start picking randoms, dude. I don't even know what else to tell you. You probably would. Well, isn't that a Seinfeld episode where Jerry tells George everything, George tells Jerry everything I'm doing is wrong, and Jerry says, well, just do the other thing. Don't do what you were gonna do. Do the other thing. So maybe that's what you have to do. You have to be George.
Yeah.
And make the change. I
don't know, man.
It is a pretty unbelievable run, man. It's more impressive what you're doing than anything else. I don't even know how it's possible. I understand though too. We're 10 races into a 36 race run here. It's going to eventually even itself out a little bit. It can't. This cannot sustain.
I think I'm gonna run out of good drivers first.
I mean, you had a week where you scored 34 points and you still got beat. I don't understand. I don't understand.
So bad.
I don't understand. It's historic. We're gonna have to save this in like the archive or something because it's been something.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to Dover this weekend, and I'm going to pick a driver that's good at Dover and jinx him. I mean, his season, he already missed a bunch of weeks because of an injury, but give me Chase Elliott as my pick for stupid Dover. Poor Chase. Well, I'm sorry, Chase.
Yep. It's all right, man. Good
Should
call.
I just put a one here afterwards?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Oh man. There's a lot of guys I haven't used yet.
Yeah, rub that in.
I don't even know what to do here. Actually, you know what? This might be a good spot.
Pick BJ McLeod, James.
Yeah, sure.
BJ McLeod.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do that one.
Don't pick Cody Ware though. He's not racing anymore.
Yeah. Well, I can't even bring him up anymore. You took Chase, so I'll take Martin Truex Jr. this week. I was gonna save him for the Coke 600, but I'll sprinkle some Martin Truex Jr. in here.
Good to know that Martin Truex Jr. is gonna have a good week this week. Good for him.
Good work, Martin.
It's about time.
Oh my God.
What a disaster. It's just ridiculous.
It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Good for you, man.
Yeah. How about fantasy? Because I felt like I was doing good in fantasy, and then that all went to hell this week too.
Well, speaking of disasters.
Yeah, I did beat you by 1 point, I think, in fantasy, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. It was, you did. Fast to the Grass got the win, and points adjusted after a while. It took a while for the points to adjust, but Fast to the Grass still gets the win. Cole Custer's Last Stand second, and Tandem Draft Tona third. Those three were the only ones above 170, and this is a rough week for everybody. So, I was. You beat me.
Oh no, that's right. So that must have been after the points. I must have been looking before the points were adjusted. Yeah, so I beat you by quite a bit.
Yeah, the points readjusted. I went from 11th to 13th.
Nice.
So I ended up with 137. Lost to Barron Speedway, who's our points leader. He had 140. Eric, you had 143.
Barron finished 11th. That's rough.
I'm telling you, this war of attrition at Talladega. Overall standings, Barron's only won over 2,000. He's in first. Tandem is second, and Mickey Elliott is still third. I am fifth, and you are seventh.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
Any shout-outs this week, James?
Man, there's some good stuff. I'll do a quick one. So Jeff Gluck does his 12 questions, and I always listen to the audio version. I just like that one. And he had Brad Keselowski on. I think Todd Gilliland's this week, but Brad was really good. Told a really funny story about meeting a police officer and having them tell him a funny story. So that was pretty cool. I always enjoy the 12 questions. Jeff's been doing it for over a decade.
Yeah, the 12 questions are great.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard the 12 questions, you can read them on The Athletic if you're a subscriber, or you can listen to them on the podcast for free a week later. And I usually listen to them because
if you're a subscriber, you can actually listen to them right away on the podcast.
Yep. Yes, you can.
But
yeah, 12 questions are always good. But I always like when the big dogs are in. So Brad's one I listen to. I'll probably listen to Todd Gilliland too. He's an interesting guy. He's got a lot going on this year.
Yeah. I don't listen to him enough. I really enjoy him, but I don't tend to find them in my feed very well.
Man, when Jeff worked at SB Nation and USA Today, I used to wait every week because I knew when they were dropping. Yeah. I used to love reading them. He didn't do the podcast back then,
right?
So I've been listening to him as a podcast lately. But good stuff. I always enjoy that. It's just a different take on the drivers and some interesting questions. Good stuff.
Good deal. I got a couple shout outs. James, do you know who the guest is on the Dale Jr. download tomorrow?
Oh, I didn't see this yet.
It is your boy, the old GOAT, Tony Stewart.
Is he coming back?
Tony Stewart's on the DJD
tomorrow. Oh my God! How did I not see this?
So that's the first. That's the first shout out.
I'll be listening into that episode.
And then a couple local shout outs for me. Birch Run Speedway has its opening night Friday night, and even bigger, Owasso Speedway has its opening night Saturday night. They've done a lot of work out at Owasso Speedway. They've added a wall on the backstretch. They've got wheeling lights in now. Repaved racetrack, brand new Musco lights. The place looks magnificent. I was never out there before, but definitely going to go out there a few times this year. Probably not going to make it for my opening night, but yeah, so worth checking out. They got a 2,500 to win modified show at Owasso on Saturday night. So I'm hearing a lot of good things about people planning on coming out. So I hope they have both tracks. Hopefully they have a great, successful season. Also a big fan, obviously, of Berlin Raceway. They already started their season out. But these two tracks could really use the support. You know, asphalt racing died off a lot in Michigan, and it's nice to see it coming back and some people putting some money into the asphalt facilities instead of building dirt tracks. Nothing against dirt, but you know, I feel like asphalt's the place to be. So,
can we get this rain and snow to just chill
right
for a little bit?
I know.
That's all.
I know.
Man,
I think it's supposed to be 60 tomorrow.
But this weekend doesn't look great, which is our local, our yearly bleep show here where I live is the Walleye Festival. So there's going to be a lot of, although the Walleye Festival does lead to garage sales, which also leads me to diecast hunting.
Nice.
Which is always kind of fun. So we'll see how that goes.
I just got a couple 164s from Walmart.
Nice.
So disappointed with the quality of these 164s anymore. They're just so bad.
I know they're
one of them that I got doesn't even roll straight. It's like, God damn, you guys. I mean, I'm paying $5 for this freaking car, and it's got a quarter of the material that the $5 cars used to have.
Yeah,
so frustrating.
I know. I when I purchased my mat from Barron Speedway, I bought a couple of cars for the girls to play with, and they love playing with them. But I'm just like looking at them, and I've got my Tony Stewart diecast from 05. That's out of the box, and I'm like, man, they used to really do these nice.
Yeah,
and they don't do them like that no more.
Yep, they're garbage anymore. So disappointing. Even the big ones, even the 124s are just not what they used to be. I've got some really nice 124s on the shelf that I'm looking at right now, and back in the day they were so much better. But hey, you know, it's always better in the past, right?
That's right. That's that's where we live. That's where I live anyway.
So I'll throw the black flag at them for their crappy car quality.
There you
then
go.
Also, quick black flag. I don't really have much. I just wanted to throw one more black flag at Corey LaJoy for his comments this week. Just race the damn car. Do what you're doing. You're succeeding. Don't pick fights with people. Don't give NASCAR a reason to fine you. Don't create the controversy. Just freaking race, dude.
Yep.
Any black flags for you, James?
I was good.
I do have one more, but go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going to black flag your best friend, Bob Pockris.
Oh, no. You and him have a thing.
You know, and I don't think it's Bob. I think it's Fox. Stop making Bob a caricature. Did you see him dancing in the freaking French fry costume at Talladega?
Oh,
the
he's not
freaking
a serious journalist anymore.
Wendy's commercial in the middle of the race. It was so annoying. Stop making Bob look like an idiot, you guys. I love Bob. Bob is a well-respected journalist who knows.
And he is my friend.
He knows if tracks have lights or not, and he is the go-to guy for that very important piece of information. Stop making him look like a fool.
Yep.
All right.
Good call.
Your turn.
This isn't. I'm not doing this as a black flag. I'm just doing a thing.
Okay.
Pitbull has a new album coming out, and this is actually kind of cool. But it's Pitbull, so I. But
What's
the new
wrong with
album's
Pitbull?
called. He's invested in NASCAR.
How many seconds into his first song do you think it's going to take before he says Pitbull?
It's going to be a lot. But probably. Well, I mean, it's going to be fast, and then so the album's called Trackhouse. And Daniel Suarez is going to bring the paint scheme to Dover, and it's not a. I don't know. This is a complicated place to put this because it is kind of cool. But it's just so weird. So maybe that's why I want to black flag it. I can't believe that guy from my college days who was always in the club or wherever at the bar was always just annoying me. It was just relentlessly annoying.
I saw him live, man.
You did? I didn't know that.
Well, I didn't pay to see him. He was on the Tonight Show when I went to L.A.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
He performed "Gimme Everything" right in front of me.
Maybe that's why he likes NASCAR. He saw you.
I could have thrown a paper airplane and hit him.
He looked at you and he said, "That's my base."
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh man,
that's
fantastic.
I think I was wearing a Daniel Suarez shirt when I went. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't a Ross Chastain.
Yeah, nobody knew who he was. No, it's just watermelon.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah, just had a watermelon under your arm. Yeah, that's good. That's a good story. I'm glad I coaxed that out of you on the podcast.
Yeah, Pitbull, Larry David, and one of the Bachelorettes were on the show that night.
I'm so jealous about the Larry David thing.
Oh, it was really good.
As you know, it's my life's mission to become Larry David.
So
I'm doing a great job at it.
The best moment in the show was during the actual broadcast. They were interviewing the chick from the Bachelorette. Or the Bachelor, I don't know. They're all the same.
One of them.
And anyway, Jay was interviewing her, and Larry had stayed on, so he was the second guest. And he asked. I don't know if you'll find it. I've just tried to find it, but he asked her a question. Larry asked her a question, and she starts answering, and he just looks at her like halfway through the answer. He just goes, "I've lost interest." And it was so Larry David.
Who does that sound like, Eric?
Yeah, I know. It sounds real familiar. Really familiar. Sounds like
you live your life talking to a version of that.
I talk to Larry David every Tuesday, just about.
It's lost interest.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I'm jealous of that whole situation.
James, where can they find you on social media if they want to reach out to you?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You got a blue check?
No, I'm not doing that.
You're not paying $8?
Those losers.
Oh,
no.
Come on, man. Come on, Dale Jr. No. Dale Jr.'s paying $8.
My favorite was LeBron James saying, "I ain't paying blah blah blah," and then immediately he had his blue check.
Yeah. I'm at T-Superspeedway on Twitter, also not with the blue check. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and Anchor. Subscribe for new episodes each week. And if you go to anchor.fm/thesuperspeedway, you can leave us an audio message, and we might play it on the show. Dover Raceway this weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series. I don't even know what other series are in action. Are they both in action this weekend, James? The Truck Series racing?
I think so, yeah. I just closed Racing Reference. That was a horrible time to ask me.
Well, whatever. There's racing this weekend at Dover. Hopefully the weather's good. Hopefully the racing's good. And we'll be back next week to break it all down and chat with you as we do every week here on the Super Speedway. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.